On a formal note, thank you to all of you for joining us for this virtual roundtable on doors and windows. It's indeed a pleasure to have each one of you on the panel, and we're sure you all will add immense value to the story. The video of this roundtable will be uploaded on our YouTube channel and on the website early next week. Also, bites of this virtual roundtable will feature as the CW Design Build cover story in our May edition. Here are a few of our past edition covers. In our March edition, we had path-breaking interviews of Mr. Nitin Gadkari, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, and Mr. TV Somanathan.
We had actual meetings with him. We had conducted an event where we interacted with each one of them on a one-on-one as part of what we called our Infra Nirbhar series. In fact, there are a few others coming up, which, sorry to intervene, Serafina. Can't help myself.
Yes, ma'am, please go ahead. A large part of our focus in the recent past has shifted to the digital world. We're delighted to share that our monthly visits have now touched over 154,000. In fact, since the first lockdown in March last year, we have been conducting webinars and roundtables to cater to the industry. We conducted over 30 webinars in a span of just about 3 months at the beginning of the lockdown last year. I'd like to share that we were also complimented by construction equipment major JCB, who mentioned that we were the only construction magazine and website that was in full swing at that time. Before we proceed with our discussion, here's a few of our upcoming events. The Maharashtra budget has outlined its plan to prioritize infrastructure in a big way, indicating its intention and agenda for development. So on 28th April, we have the Construction World Maharashtra event. This exclusive event will delve into projects, opportunities, and issues in the state. We are also in touch with the Chief Minister's office to request his presence at the event. So request all of you to join us on 28th. Also coming soon is the interview of Minister of Railways, Mr. Piyush Goyal, as part of our Infra Nirbhar series that Falguni ma'am mentioned about. So do stay tuned for this as well. On 21st May, we have the HR Leadership Summit. This conference will consist of 3 innovative and engaging sessions that will discuss the changing role of HR to support the people development in the digital age. So do ask your HR teams to register if they haven't already. Next, we have up on 20th of August, the Construction World Architect and Builder Awards, popularly known as the QAB Awards. This is our 16th year of awarding India's top architects and builders and noteworthy projects. And this is the second year that we will be hosting the awards virtually. In fact, last year...
Sorry, if I may intervene. We think it's going to be virtual right now, but we don't know how the world is changing, and whether it is virtual or it is offline, the date still stands.
Yes, last year when we conducted the awards for the first time virtually, we did everything that we would have had the awards been offline. So we had over hundreds of entries. We had the MDs and principal architects of the top builders and architects winning firms share their speech with us as they would at a physical event. In fact, we were applauded by renowned architect Hafiz Contractor for our efforts. He mentioned that the whole world had stopped, but the awards and our functions were still going on, and he congratulated us on the work we do for the building industry. Moving on to this year, our theme for QAB is React, which means to respond to the environment with awareness, creativity, and technology. I'm sure the QAB Awards may be of interest to almost all of you. So do have your teams nominate your architect firms, building firms, and your projects for these awards.
The link for these awards is quabawards.com. So you can have your teams visit it in case you'd like to submit something.
Coming to our topic of discussion today on doors and windows. As per market research, the global market for this segment is expected to grow at a CAGR of 7 to 9% from 2020 to 2025. Major drivers include increasing new construction, renovation activities, and rising consumer spending on home improvements. Well, the future for this segment looks promising, but we have you all on board to tell us more about this. Interestingly, Asia Pacific is known to be the fastest growing market for this segment. In India, the market is expected to expand in the mid to long term due to several other driving factors, including government initiatives of housing for all, smart cities, household units to be built. What we understand is uPVC has accounted for about 12% of the overall doors and windows market size in financial year 2018. And this market is expected to grab more than 50% of the market share by 2038. Coming to recent trends, in the backdrop of the pandemic and the restrictions to be in confined spaces, there is obviously a need for more daylight, ventilation, outdoor air, and of course, sound insulation. So this is one of the points we would like to deliberate upon in our discussion going forward. We've also seen a shift in materials for doors and windows over the years, from hardwood to aluminium to uPVC. This is again something that we will discuss in due course. So we've put some pointers of discussion. You could feel free to answer all the questions here, or you may pick up the ones relevant to you and your firms. We would have about 4 minutes allotted to each one of you to speak. Before that, I'd like to request each one of you to introduce yourselves, please.
Can start with Mr. Venkatesh.
Yes.
A brief introduction, please, 30 seconds.
No, I'm Venkatesh. I have been in the facade consultancy trade for about 34 years. And of late, for the past about 10-12 years, we have been giving consultancy for the doors and windows activities of residential projects. And there are many projects we have done. There is no point in listing it now. I am quite useful for the fenestration activities, and you can use us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Schmidt.
Venkatesh.
Yeah, very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Mario. I am representing a German company called Slingel Windows. We are a 60 years old company in Germany, and in India, we have just celebrated a few weeks ago our 15 years of existence. A part of Slingel Window, I'm on the board, and I'm the president of the uPVC Manufacturer Association called UTMA. And I just felt so good when the point was there that we are presuming that the uPVC market share in the next 20 years is going up to 50%. We are really happy and we are ready. On the end with UTMA, and from my side, I'm working closely with the BIS, with the Bureau of Indian Standards, because good products should reach to the consumer, and also with all the industry stakeholder, especially also Shuko, who is here also today. There we are working also on a window standard, so that overall over the next years, the window performance will become much better. Demands on windows are going to become much better, and then on the end, the benefit will go to the customer. And since I'm here since 15 years, I'm really happy to be on the journey of the Indian fenestration industry, to see how much development was done from 2006 when I landed here.
Right, thank you. Mr. Raghunandan.
Yeah, thank you. And hello, everybody. My name is Shyam Raghunandan, and I'm the managing director for Shuko in India and neighboring countries. And from, I think, Shuko's perspective, we see a tremendous opportunity for aluminum systems in India, whether it be residential projects or facades of office buildings or private homes. And I think as the performance requirements get higher, I think the market for systems at a high level of performance, that's continuing to increase. And that's a welcome growth for us. From our perspective, I think three things are super critical. One is our DNA, that is innovation. What can we bring to the market that wows the customer at a high standard? I think that is what Shuko stands for, and that's what we constantly strive for. The second is helping the market wherever we are to establish the right standards, whether it be from the suppliers that we work with and develop, or also the BIS, where we are leading that effort to set up the standards, as Mario mentioned. So setting the right standards for the market so the consumer gets the right product, that's super crucial. And the third topic of interest is skill development of the installers who are turning that last screw, and making sure that the skill of the operators is maintained at the right level. So these are the three topics of interest for us, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you.
We will take this forward in our discussion further as well. It's a good point.
Mr. Prashant?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is Prashant here. I'm representing Prestige Group. I'm with the company from past 16 years. Prestige Group, I think you people all know, we are leading developer pan-India and more predominantly in South India. We have been doing an average turnover around 6,000 to 7,000 crores. And we deliver approximately an average of at least 5,000 to 6,000 units per year. That has been our strength. And I'm glad to be a part of this meet.
Thank you. Kanai?
I'm Kanai Gandhi, co-founder partner KNS Architects. We have been practicing for now 25 years plus. Globally, actually, we're doing work across the globe. We're doing in the US, we're doing a couple of villas there. Actually, and we're doing a lot of work in India, and with all different verticals from villas to hospitality. Currently, we're doing a lot of high rises in Mumbai, like which are varying from 40 stories to 60 stories in different parts of the city, and where it makes a lot of use of how you use your windows and glazing, which is a very important factor because where we come in from is more the aesthetic side of windows, where it's a human nature where you actually want to always be connected with the nature. That's why windows actually help you in your indoor-outdoor connect. And we, as a practice, believe that design has to be very contextual. That's why placement of windows is again very important with respect to the cardinal direction and the location of that particular site in any part of the world.
Thank you. Sarah, over to you.
Thank you, all of you. Moving on to the first question, obviously it's an obvious question. The COVID pandemic has impacted our lives, our work, literally everything. But specific to doors and windows, what has been the impact really on demand, on manufacturing, on costs and on sales?
Perhaps, we can take one person at a time and you can look at these pointers of discussion and pick on pointers that you would like to elaborate on. You may not want to talk about all, but the ones which are most significant. Perhaps we can start with Mr. Raghunandan.
Yes, definitely. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. So, I think after the pandemic hit last year, exactly almost a year ago, I think really two things immediately came to the forefront. I think the first one was innovation, and the second one was value, right? These are the two, I think, themes that came out. And just to take one example, so whether it be residential projects or private homes or facades where we operate, customers basically said, look, we want to understand for this level of performance, how can you optimize the cost of the system over its lifetime? So whether it be procurement cost, installation cost, maintenance cost, how can you give me a system that really squeezes out our cost of ownership? And I think that squeeze forced us to think really hard about our assumptions, what our designs were doing and what we could do to generate value for the customer. So that was across the board, whether every builder, every homeowner, I think, asked that question. But at the same time, people were spending more time at home. And I guess for whatever reason, they're looking out.
Sorry, Mr. Raghunandan, I just want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm sorry, my internet connection is a little unstable. I'm out of Mumbai. My question was that the ask was as much B2C as B2B for a system that justified its lifetime cost?
I would say the pressure was more on the B2B side. So builders who were building larger projects, larger apartments, I think they felt the crunch a lot because they were giving discounts. They were trying to get rid of inventory, swinging between should I make an affordable home or should I make a premium affordable home? So they really wanted I would say, value optimized solution.
Right.
They were still willing to pay a premium, but they wanted to understand exactly what value they were going to get. Just having a German brand or a French brand or whatever it is was not sufficient.
Okay.
On the private home side, there was a lot of push on innovation, and I think especially homeowners were spending, people with enough, let's say, spare residual income they were spending more time at home, I guess, looking out of the window as a joke. And they're like, hey, this is something we can improve, whether it be in terms of lighting, working environment. I'm going to spend more time at home. How is that going to get me more fresh air? So a lot of, what I would call it a health perspective to the home that started putting, let's say, inquiries to us saying, can you upgrade my window, right? And bring in something new, bring in something that makes my home better. And I think that has driven a lot of the architects, consultants to ask us, what can you give me that is new? Right? So I think these are the two directions that the pandemic has forced us to go on. And I think the seeds that we started planting a year ago are going to bear fruit. And I'm really looking forward to this crisis, hopefully, helping us to capture a bigger opportunity with many of our colleagues, even on the panel.
So you have created new products which will see the light of day, or they're already out?
Yes, we have a very strong innovation pipeline, a product pipeline, and some of them we already launched.
Yes, some of them are out and some are on the way.
That's correct. Yes. So that will be an ongoing process, and I think the cadence at which we launch new systems will just continue to increase.
Mr. Raghunandan, has this kind of innovation, the drive towards innovation, really led to an increase in R&D investment?
Definitely, yes. We have increased our investment into R&D. What we have realized is not at just the India level, but at the international level, that systems have to be designed to meet the needs of the local market, right? Something that, even just to give an example, that works in let's say a Bangalore is not going to work in Calcutta, just given the wind conditions, the wind performance requirements, or maybe even the sense of aesthetic that customers have. So it is super crucial that we invest our time and energy, which is all limited, into our own R&D, and we have done that. So we have developed further our testing facilities, internal testing facilities. We have invested into more R&D and invested more into software tools that help us move faster.
Mr. Schmidt, would you like to add to this?
Of course, we had all to think what to come new. For us, as in terms of R&D and new products, people are spending more time in home, and especially what are not the gated communities. We have made a lot of innovation and product launches in terms of security and safety. We have created new glazing system. We have upgraded whatever is there on hardware systems which are widely used in Europe, but as of now, as we don't have the standard in India in place, we have just made it. The way we are testing is per EN. And then what is very important, you have the innovation, then you have to get it also to the consumer. So for us, it was important that internally we made so many workshops that our employees had to try to break the window, had to break the glass. So they was fully convinced what is actually new. And then with this excitement inside that something is really new, something is really different, whatever we have seen before, then going this and telling this to the consumers is going to give a real better trust factor. And then the pickup of those demands came actually really in, because you have so many good innovations, and sometimes it's perfect, but as long as it's not adopted or it hasn't reached to the buyers, so then all is actually really of no use. But pandemic, we are spending more time at home. We want to be safe and secured. Best window system, also energy saving now when people are more at home, running the ACs more at home, better glazing systems. Now we are talking about for the standard, which is hopefully going to come in place. We do have a lot of measures for the water flow rate, that even in future, all the windows are during the monsoon, even in Mumbai or Chennai or even here in Delhi with a heavy monsoon, has to be made in a way that even when the highest monsoon is hitting, the water will still not enter your house. There are a lot of things what we could do together as an individual company, and where we found each other in the industry. And the BIS, we had made at least 10 meetings each hour, huge, I would say at least 100 hours in the last 1 year. We as an industry could spend together, work together, and get the right products proposed so that in future consumer is benefited. And this was the good thing from the pandemic, because there was a time and the connection via web, so that all of us, in spite of we are sitting in Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, or wherever, we could all work together. This was a real great moment, and it is still going on. We still have a lot of those kind of meetings with the industry, with all the stakeholders together, where the entire industry is looking for upgrading the fenestration products.
Also with the imports having been impacted, with imports being reduced, there would have been a focus on make in India, your products being made in India. So has this kind of put India on the spotlight for your international business?
As a considering India, we have a lot of impact and a lot of negative impact actually at the moment. At the moment, there is no glass available. I hope it's only temporarily, because glass to be manufactured in India, local suppliers are not able to cater the demand. So then we had, of course, a lot of price rises. All the raw material went up significantly. Now it would be, let's see, depends on the pandemic and how it goes, that there are some kind of relaxation comes, because in the last couple of months, there was a huge pressure to us as the fabricator, where a consumer, because of pandemic, is looking for some value engineering, is something looking for getting something better at a lower cost. And at the same time, we have such a significant impact on steel, on aluminium, on the PVC resin, on glass, gasket, silicon, and all the raw material. They have just jumped. And then internally, really, you have to optimize a lot that you can still be stable with your price.
Mr. Prashant, you could take the next question, talking about the pandemic and the need to stay indoors in a confined space most of the time. What is the kind of doors and windows that are now gaining traction? As a builder, what do you really look for?
More than as a builder, what our customers are coming back more with the pandemic. One thing what I want to bring across these pandemic days, post-pandemic, once we reopen, the customers have flocked. We did record sales in the last pandemic, post our pandemic year was the record sales what we did in the last 5 to 6 years. It was just because of the understanding the customer requirements, providing them the right product, providing them the right solution is what we see as a success. What the customers are now wanting with this pandemic situation, more staying at home, they are looking more from the aesthetics point of view, a safety point of view, and surely increasing their luxury as their stay at home or their time of stay at home has increased. Yes, they are looking for some larger windows. That has been as a request from large customers, but at the same time, we need to look at engineering that solution, because large windows, yes, they surely bring in more of light, more of ventilation. At the same time, they bring in a lot of heat unless it's not engineered. That's where I think it requires where we need to sit with the experts, see through the orientation of our plans from the beginning, see through the sun paths of how we travel through, and give them a right solution. I think that has been a requirement from the customers. And also there are some smaller things which Ms. Mario has pointed out, the rains not bringing the water inside your houses. Though it looks a silliest thing to bring out, but the customer surely looks at it. There has to be windows or solutions which can bring or drain out the rainwater in the quickest time. That is what the customers look at. And yes, what we see as a developer is more on the glass, what we are using in the windows. More, I think, still 70 to 80% of our requirements are with uPVC. And still we are more, I think, in the rush of creating mass volumes. We are still in the solution of providing clear glass. I think we need to, keeping balance of cost and aesthetics in point of view, we need to bring out some solutions where the customers see a better product and also aesthetics, because white or a gray in aluminium is monotonous to a customer now. They are looking at some better solutions. Yes, there are some foil windows, some powder coated windows which we can bring at. Yes, they have a barrier on cost which we need to bridge through. I think that will be a requirement, and that will be demand the requirements in the going times is what I see.
Mr. Prashant, does Prestige have any preferred vendors? Do you all go with do you all go with standard vendors? Do you experiment with every project? How does it work?
See, I don't say preferred vendors. We look at performing vendors. It's more we are a company which we were, I would say, one of the first companies to start off with a uPVC window and a uPVC pipe also. It was one of our flagship project, Prestige Shantiniketan, where we first went through. We work with a closed loop of vendors where we surely look at new people, but because of our mass volumes, see our requirements every year is almost 50,000 to 60,000 windows and about 40,000 doors. That's our requirement. So we surely look at people who can cater such type of requirements, and we do not also not spread across 10 people, so that our coordination, our supply chains, it has to act as a well-oiled machine for us, because we work on tight timelines with the customers, and we believe that delivering to the customers at the right time is the key. We have been experimenting, we have been working with the best in the industry, but at the same time, we have been working with few local players who can cater up, so that once we start bringing them up, giving them some better responsibilities, some have come up, some have failed for us. But I don't say any preferred vendors. Whoever who can provide us a solution and provide us volumes at the right time, they are always preferred at Prestige.
Since you spoke about aesthetics, Mr. Gandhi, my next question to you, is there a challenge in kind of meeting with aesthetic trends and catering to buyer preferences?
Basically, what I would add to this, like for us as architects, the main thing a window serves is more like a protection. It's actually protecting you from the weather conditions and
Right.
nature. So for us, window is more like a protection, and what the client or the customer needs of late over the last couple of years and more to do so after the pandemic is that they want a more stronger connect with the outdoors. So for that's why there's a trend of a lot of off-site construction which happens. There's a lot of prefabrication work, and along with it, windows have become more the trend is to be more sleeker. So we don't want to see the joint between two window shutters. So like you find a lot of companies, a lot of all these service manufacturers having very sleek windows which are up to like less than 35 mm to 40 mm. So like when you're actually seeing a facade, you will not read the joints at all, and there's a very strong connect with the outdoor. But at the same time, as architects, as I said, we do a lot of contextual designing. So placement of windows and making them wider with respect to the location and the weather condition is very important. For example, you cannot have a glass house in the middle of Rajasthan because it won't be apt. And for example, we're doing a sort of a glass house in a city in the US close to Washington, where they have a lot of cold weather and there's a lot of snowfall. So there the thing opens out to a different context. We want the natural light, and we want to feel the outdoor connect. So there's more glazing. We've gone to the extent where we have a window shutter which is close to 3 meters by 9 meters. That's 10 feet by 30 feet, which could be operated with a finger touch, or sometimes they even all make it mechanized. So that is a trend which is happening of late, because I think if you're wanting something which is more modern, contemporary, and as we all know, the more the glass, the more modern it is. So that is the mindset of a lot of people across the globe, actually. But as I said, things have to be very contextual. You have to bring in the context of the location before proposing. So that becomes more like a responsibility of an architect. So you just can't have glass everywhere. You need to be very judicious of actually giving logical solution of providing glass.
I actually
So
have a
Venkatesh,
question. Sorry for you. Sorry, Serafina. May I just interject? Can I have a
Sure.
question for you?
Yeah.
You have these all glass buildings in a city like Mumbai, residential buildings. For example, the India Blue building, which is a full glass building and where the windows hardly open 6 inches.
Correct.
What's the rationale? And is this really design? Is this somebody's fancy? Is this just a builder's brief that has just been simply carried out? And how is it practical, such a design?
I would say like it's more like A is to create a landmark. B is it's just all conditioned air. So in a way, it actually goes away from being in the tropics where you're actually looking at a lot of ventilation which comes from, if it's Bombay City, coming from the west and the south. The only advantage here would be like if you're going a particular level, like if you're going beyond say 100 meters or odd, that is where I think the wind pressure and the rain factor becomes more influential in the openings. So that is where if it's more glass, so there is a connect at the same time. It gives you that feel of being modern. But otherwise, I think practically, like you obviously would want to open the windows and let the natural breeze come in. So that is where, to a certain extent, the design doesn't work. But if you want to create a style statement, then obviously that's a different point of view in totality.
It's more vanity than real practicality.
Yeah, that's something which we always say that as I said again, I'm just being repetitive. Like architecture has to be contextual. It can't just be some sort of a cosmetic job. Like you can't just have clad a building with something just because you feel like doing something and creating a sort of landmark. It will be more like there for a few decades, but later it doesn't work actually, because you're really actually putting a lot of pressure on all your services, and it's not sustainable at all. Even if you're using the best of performance glasses and things like those, I think it's impractical in a sense. Even when it comes to privacy, for example, if your light is on in the night, someone can look straight into your house. Yeah. So that becomes the biggest disadvantage. That's why then you see, what are you seeing in the end of you're just seeing the back of curtains or a, so that becomes more of a challenge to the interior designer when he has to actually look into designing good curtains and good shears. So aesthetically, they look good from outside also.
Yeah. One question for Ganesh, Serafina, and then over to you. How do you balance the aesthetic with the cost requirement of your customer? You need everything that he needs.
Because when we are doing, because we do work around all different verticals. So when we're actually working with developers, I think there is a very strong cost criteria that we need to follow. So then we have to really choose wisely and see that we are getting the best solutions. And one more thing is like anything to do with when you're suggesting a window system, it even depends on the type of look and feel of that building. So if it is either it is like it's a modern contemporary structure, then it's all glass, so obviously the cost factor goes up really high. Or then if it's something more like a religious institutional building, or if it's something more classical, then the window types would reduce. And but when it comes to giving, we have to do a lot of homework on cost analysis. And now post-COVID, I think that's become more of a stricter thing with the client, because they do want more glazing, but at the same time, cost factors become very important.
I'm just going to throw one question, Serafina, which you can ask all the panelists to speak, is the need for standardization of doors and windows. Will it solve a problem? Will it create a problem? Over to you, Sarah.
Before that, sorry to interject. Before that, could you please exit the presentation, Serafina?
I'd actually like Mr. Venkatesh to add to what Mr. Gandhi mentioned about glazing and also building orientation. How does it have a role to play in where the windows should be located in a house or in any project?
Okay, thank you for giving me this topic. Basically, building orientation for a residential project is very important while designing the plan layout of the apartments. Primarily because, as you rightly pointed out, the demand for larger glazing is going to be definitely growing more in the coming future, because work from home definitely requires more light coming in, ventilation, and acoustics is one very important factor when you look at the windows. So glass performance is also important, because on many events you would like to work with a controlled environment of air conditioning, and yes, when you require ventilation, it is there. Now, the most simple graduation of glass for a residential project considering the economics and various other factors, would be graduating from a simple clear glass to a glass which could have a tint and a laminated glass. This is the most economical upgradation of the windows, which can cater to most of the heat ingress can be resolved. The acoustic can be improved. It is very difficult to consider a residential apartment like prestigious building to be done with a laminated double glass unit, which is still used in maybe 5-star hotel windows. So considering the volume and other things which are to be catered to in residential segment, the first graduation of glass to meet with most of the performance requirements, which is in the growth path in a different system. Today we are not talking about a window of 1200 by 1200, which is fixed on a bedroom wall of maybe 10 feet by 10 feet. We are not discussing anything of that kind anymore, because that is going to be run of the mill. The architectural aspiration has also graduated tremendously with regard to the window sector, because ultimately it is also the responsibility of the developers and architects to satisfy the customer's demand. Today, people, when they have to work from home, it is definitely required that more light is to be brought in, but at the same time heat is to be controlled. So there are many equations that work together. Acoustics has to be brought down. Now if it is a gated community, the building is already about 10 meters inside from the main road. So the acoustics in that area would be different, whereas a house which is being constructed on the main road, the acoustic factor will be different. But nonetheless, you cannot eliminate the acoustic improvement required through the windows in the growing scenario today, primarily because even in a gated community, if the flat is 10 meters behind the boundary wall, you have movement of cars, various other things at the ground level, low frequency noises. So work from home requires a quiet environment also. So these three demands, that is performance of glass through the windows in terms of heat. Number two, performance of the window for ventilation whenever required. Number three, window performing for acoustics. These three factors are the most demanding factors for the future. And as long as the systems can cater to these requirements, we will be able to meet with the challenges.
Thank you, Mr. Venkatesh. Moving on, as Falguni ma'am mentioned, we would like each of you to kind of talk about standardization. What is the challenge, and what is the solution forward?
Yeah, is it a boon or is it a bane? Should we have standardization of doors and windows like a lot of it is in the West?
Mr. Schmidt, would you like to take this as the president of the uPVC?
Standardization is already a very tricky word. When we talk about standards, where we are at the moment in a process, not in the moment, since the last 10 years, we are in a process of setting standards in place, standards on uPVC profiles and standards on windows. When we talk about standardization of windows, for me, representing the uPVC Windows and Door Manufacturer Association, I would say strongly no. I love the individual ones, protecting our industry, which is mainly small and medium. If I have large quantities, which is, of course, for Mr. Prachand, I think a very, very good topic, when he has 50,000 windows in a year and someone is going to make them on these standard sizes, then definitely a major cost reducing is going to come, where for the individual, where maybe the uPVC or the high-end aluminium industry is working for high-end villas, individual homes, there definitely it will be your masterpiece. It will be your thing where only sizes are coming accordingly to your wish and to the team of the house, whatever the architects like Mr. Kalai is there making. But for large projects, especially for the mass housing, the more we go down the value chain and coming more into affordable, there definitely it has to come at certain point of time. But while making now the standards in place, raw material and security and safety and security of humans should not be compromised. Not to only have the price as the main criteria, keeping everything out. security and safety first, and then within the parameter, then it would be something just the volume, and then how to say it, where is the capacity of those factories who can make these large numbers of windows, which we honestly don't have till date in the country.
Thanks. Mr. Raghunandan, what do you think?
I think that's a really great question. When we think of standardization, we look at three aspects. Right, the first is standardization of performance. So when we say that, let's say a window is 3 kPa resistance against water, what does that mean? The whole industry should understand the same thing, and the customer should understand the same thing. So I think that is one layer of standardization. The second is standardization of sizes. So that, let's say, for example, in a home, can we have a certain set, at least a defined set of sizes that are standard? Now, of course, that doesn't remove the option of customizing. It just means that customizing will add to the cost, which is perfectly fine. But I think having standardization of sizes brings a lot of efficiency and value to the end user, to the builder, and to ourselves. Right. And I think the fabricator partners grow, the suppliers grow, everybody sucks out efficiency from the system. And the third, I think, standardization is the standardization of the operators, the fabricators, the factory people, the site installers, their skill level, standardizing and qualifying their skill level. So I think these three layers of standardization, I think, are super crucial, definitely for our industry. Because at the end of the day, without having the right performance standards, everybody sells everything as anything. Right? If we don't have standardization of sizes, then basically we are, custom tailors for the whole country. Everybody asks for a different shirt size, and we are basically tailoring for everybody in the country. Right? And last but not least, at the end of the day, it matters who tightens that last screw and how well they do it. Right? And having those qualified and tested, certified, I think is a huge benefit to the industry.
Absolutely.
Great,
Mr. Venkatesh?
Great response, Mr. Raghunandan. I think it qualifies the whole standardization bit across, 4 parameters as you've put them. In fact, I just have a quick question for Kanai. Is that I'm not aware, but I'd just like to know whether standardization of the quality of windows, is that any kind of standard for a green project? Is there any qualifier for your insulation via windows? I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm asking you this question.
No, it's more to do with I think then it comes more to do with the quality of glass actually that you're using. And as we all know that the glasses have different levels of performances, and there are different ways of installing glasses, whether they are SGUs or they're DGUs or triple glaze units. So those are different type of systems which could be incorporated to achieve what you're saying, to come close to being a green building or to being sustainable. But that obviously comes at a big cost. So depending on what type of project you're doing and whether it is really applicable or not to that.
What's your view on standardization?
To me, if I would say like the way our practice is, I think 20% would really agree with standardization because it really helps the process when it comes to, as Mr. Mario said, it's all for housing projects, for a lot of commercial projects where you're looking at a standard size of, it's easy to install. It could be anything from 1.2 meters by 2.4 or 3 meters. So it's really quick. But the other part of the practice, which does a lot of innovation, when we are looking at different buildings, different, villas, that is something that we are looking at, where all the concerned consultants along with the vendors, they have some good solutions so that, we can do something, out of the box rather than being within the box. Otherwise, standardization will be more like within the box. And then you will have a lot of monotony happening all across, because then it's like you see everything starts looking the same only. You won't see the difference. Like, just imagine all the buildings all over the city or, across everyone just having a standard 1.2 meters by 2.4 meter standard design. What will you do then? It gets so boring. Imagine if I like to wear this and Mr. Mario likes to wear that. We don't have a choice. I think it's very important to have a choice. going ahead with
Yeah,
design.
we have, one of the things about India is that we have too many choices for everything. Everyone wants everything.
But I think that
custom-based.
yeah, but that is, I think, if because a lot of people say, India is very colorful because you go in different parts of the country, there's so much color happening here. But that's what we like, right? That's part of it, being so colorful and nice. So we obviously in your architecture also you'd want something which is different. Like you don't want the same standardization coming in. Okay, I do agree to the fact when it comes to certain housing projects and certain commercial buildings where the need is to be that way, but otherwise there has to be that bit of a difference. Otherwise, how will you ever create a Taj Mahal again?
Okay.
Well said.
What's your
Yes,
view?
Mr. Venkatesh.
I want to add a few points here. You see, when we talk of standardization and non-standardization, I would, suggest that these two things should go simultaneously. Standardization means if you are doing a bedroom, a drawing room, a living room, or living and dining, you do a kitchen, you do a washroom ventilator. Probably the sizes there can be standardized, irrespective of the size of the flat or irrespective of the. You see, the difference between 2 BHK and 3 BHK drawing, living and dining remains the same, kitchen remains the same, the washrooms remain the same, just that the bedroom numbers gets added. So standardization of a window size for each application is possible. But again, as we understand from this discussion itself, why should we have windows which are only white or which are only gray? That means that we cannot expect standardization. So standardization of few things should be taken up and adopted. Options for creativity should be left open, but with clear identified details. You can choose to change these things, but you should not choose to change these things. If we work that way, probably a better standardization for the window industry can come. Irrespective of the project being in, let us say, Raipur, or the project being in Rajarhat, or the project being in Rajasthan. If the unit is, for example, residential projects, very rare have seen a floor-to-floor height of more than 3 meters. 3 meters of floor-to-floor height is a standard element. When that can be standard, why can't the opening in the wall be standardized? The respective location, bedroom, child safety, this factor, that factor, but then the window can be standardized. So window sizes can be standardized. Glass should be left with the element of the choice. Color of the powder coating or color of the window can be left to the choice, which can be, probably tailor-made. But if the sizes are frozen, the advantage is the glass optimization becomes better. The profile optimization becomes better. You reduce the wastage of profiles, you reduce the wastage of glass. Hardware, in any case, if you have a sliding shutter, the hardware is fixed. You require rollers, you require handles. So though there should be standardization. Standardization in size for every respective location of the window, and option to choose the glass and option to choose the color could be kept separate.
So Prashant, what's your view as a builder on standardization? Will it reduce the headache, add to the headache?
It surely reduces because standardization is what we believe, and as the entire team felt, what we look at standardization is the mass housing. We yes, in standardization, as Mr. Venkatesh was saying, we are looking for options for share in terms of aesthetics, and also what the customers are looking more. Even if it's a standardized door, standardized window, can you give us some, if we in a safety point of view, can you give us some? They are coming up with a burglar requirement, burglar safety requirement. They're saying, can you bring in some sensors where there is a hard effort to take out the window that the burglar alarm switches on. So these things is what they are coming up, which we need to look into solutions. So keeping the standard sizes of the windows and the doors the same. Yes, there is a certain segment of our luxury and premium segment where we look for surely bringing out a newer element, newer innovation as we go into. Yes, that's a different segment, but standardization for sure. But the performance standardization remains the same across all the developments what we do. And there is one which is a challenge is our standardization in the terms of installation of either a uPVC or a aluminum window where the skilled worker, where a worker, he should know what kind of a bit or a tool which is need to be used, whether it's a concrete wall to a masonry wall. Such type of, I think, skill improvement and bringing in standardization there needs to be done from the installer point of view. I think if that challenge is met, there are umpty number of solutions and experts who can provide us solutions.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. When we were speaking about innovations, Mr. Raghunandan, you spoke so much about innovations. How is digitization really gaining traction in the manufacturing of doors and windows? Do we see any kind of digitization happening?
Yes, definitely. So just very quickly, I think on the topic of standardization before I address the digitization, I think one of the reasons why standardization, especially of sizes, performance and skill separately, is because I think the window is actually an interface between the civil and masonry and the fenestration system. So I think standardizing an interface drives efficiency. The second consequence, I think, of standardizing something like that, I mean, I would reflect on the shirt industry where, let's say, sizes are standardized, but then innovation is forced because people, suppliers, manufacturers are forced to think within that size, what are the other customer requirements where I can innovate, whether it be color or material or buttons or zips or whatever it is. So I think there is opportunity there, but it's important, I think, because it's an interface topic to drive efficiency. On the topic of digitization, I think that is a huge opportunity coming up on multiple levels. So I think the first one is digitization of the entire supply chain, which is a separate topic. I won't touch that at all. The second is, I think this, let's call it under this big umbrella of smart buildings, what is called a smart building. Now, everybody has a different understanding of a smart building. My understanding at the end of the day is a smart building collects information about the environment digitally and then provides that to the user in the home to make decisions, right? Now, a big portion of the building is, let's say, doors and windows. Some typical information that the building could collect is, what is the temperature outside? Is my window open? If the window can tell the user, am I open, right? Third, am I being broken into? How much water have I drained today, right? Am I ready for maintenance? So I think a smart building offers tremendous opportunity along the entire value chain of the window system to collect information and then provide it to the user to make good decisions to increase value. Last but not least, I think in Shuko, we have invested a lot into this topic. And there is a topic that we work on as the Internet of Facades, right? And that is a fascinating topic because the question becomes, the facade is just sitting there doing pretty much, looking pretty and covering the building. What else can we get the facade to do? Right? How can we digitize that facade, use it as a skin, a digital skin, a media skin, a skin that senses the environment, creates energy? So there's a lot of opportunities there. Some are low-hanging fruit. Am I open? I think that's a low-hanging fruit. Some are extremely, I would say, blue sky. But I think that's a tremendous opportunity just in there.
And what is the kind of impact this has on costs, on manufacturing costs, when you talk about digitization?
I think it is a question of, primarily a question of, first of all, awareness, understanding the needs of the market, how much demand is there, and then generating scale in manufacturing, right? So I think before jumping into it, digitization always looks exciting, but I think it is really important to start with what customers are willing to pay for today, right? And for us, like I said, even it could be something super simple like, an app that says, hey, am I open, right? Now, I'm traveling somewhere. Many people, I mean, all of us would have imagined, oh, did I leave my window open? It's going to rain. Everybody has this experience, but then, you're halfway across the city, you're not going to drive back, right? But just having that information helps. You can call a neighbor and say, please go close it. Step forward from there, and we have automated sliders, automated sliding windows. Step forward from there. Once I know, hey, I'm open, you press a button and it automatically closes, right? Even more comfort. Now that happens maybe, once a month to you. But if water gets into your, 12 crore, 3 crore home, there go your carpets, there go your furniture, right? So I think simple topics where customers' daily hassle can be removed itself offers a large opportunity for digitization. All the fancy stuff, as the market evolves, we will try to monetize.
Mr. Prashant and Mr. Gandhi, what do you all have to say from the consumer's perspective?
Sorry, Sarah, I think Mr. Schmidt wanted to say something earlier. It raised his hand.
Sure.
Yes, it was something related to what Mr. Prashant had asked. What is standardization on installation? Here again, I would like to represent our association called UTMA, where we have created first a fabrication guideline around 5-6 years ago, that whoever is the member following the guideline is actually making the window correct, following the guideline. So now we have started another program of a fabricator audit, that we are auditing that people are doing it correctly so that the right consumer comes. And now during the pandemic, we have actually introduced our installation guideline, which is the main point where we know when my opening looks like this, I have to make this wall, that wall. What are the tolerance level? When the tolerance is too big, then even the just fresher should say, hey, the tolerance is too big, and when I have to fill half of an inch with silicone, so then we are going to step back. So this was something where, of course, we as an industry addressing this, and only a trained person will install it right, and the best window installed in the wrong way will never perform. And considering the speed of the installation which has to happen, therefore still quality parameters should be on top and not at a loss. This we know very well, because the product itself, our industry at many places, we became a bad name because of the installation process. So this we have very well identified, worked on it, introduced it, and now during the pandemic we have made so many workshops with fabricator and telling them how to make it. It has to spread much more of an awareness, but these are all steps where a single company can reach to their fabricator, or I can reach to my places where I'm working at almost 40 places across the country. But considering that today we have more than 2,000-3,000 companies making uPVC and aluminium system doors fabricated in India, there we need really a wide coordination, like an association where we can get connected with each other so that the overall process is becoming better. And in terms of digitalization from our end, yes, we are doing the same. We have a product called Smartly. It will tell you exactly my window is open, it is closed, it is raining, and so on. But there, yes, important is the present bottleneck is how it comes actually, it reaches to me. Am I going via antenna, via radio, or I'm going then via in Wi-Fi? These are points. And what is there if I have a power cut and my Wi-Fi is not working? So there are many points which are extreme stylish, but then has to be extremely, especially when we look for these security systems inbuilt, that we are making it 100% rest assured that even if the power is gone for a couple of time or whatever, so that my window is still performing. So there we have a product which has a battery inside, which works for many, many hours. There are lots of innovation, and definitely it's the topic of the future, but we have to see in what way consumer is adopting it, how much for this fancy thing we are really able to spend more. Right. What is necessary, what is unnecessary, this only the future will show. But overall, yes, these products are highly I don't want to say in demand, highly asked for to have it, but future will show what is actually going to come and not.
I have a question for both the manufacturers, which you all can answer after Sarah puts her next question. I've interrupted her twice. I just wanted to know from, from Shuko and from Linger, what's your outreach to your customers in these times? How do you reach out to them? How do you get your message across? But before that, I'll hand it over to Sarah.
I wanted Mr. Gandhi to actually take on this on digitization, from a consumer's perspective, and thereafter Mr. Prashant also to add on to it. Our buyers really, are you all willing to spend as builders and architects to invest into this digitization?
Why take it away, Prashant?
Kanai, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, okay. See, we felt over the last at least 10 years that people really aspire to go for digitization and for a lot of automation with respect to a lot of stuff in their house, be it lighting, your AVs, your systems of the way the curtains operate, and even obviously the way the windows can also be operated. But I think everything comes at a cost, and I think there has to be a bigger awareness, because right now it's quite unaffordable, a lot of this stuff. So to bring it out to the masses and to bring it out to a lot of people across, I think there has to be a way, like how if we go back 20-25 years, internet was so expensive, and right now it's almost free. So it's something which needs to be brought in, and that awareness needs to be brought in to a lot of consumers for it to become more affordable. So then I think the people are right now not very aware of what's happening, and they are a bit apprehensive whether they should go ahead with something like this or not in the first place. Yeah. So I think if it's made easier and more affordable, then I'm sure a lot of clients and customers would want to go ahead with automation, because obviously its ease of operation is very important.
Right, Mr. Prashant.
See, I think two things. One is digitization and one is technology. Digitization is something which, yes, the industry has initiated a large number of steps, but it needs, we still struggle that the communication from the site to the factory goes in the right way, and the same window comes back to the site and it goes to the exact floor and unit and the place. That's where I think the primary digitization is what is required, that the communication between the site to the factory, then going back to the right unit needs to be established. There is an initiation, but still there is a challenge with we as developer when we look at that. That needs a stronger focus, a stronger platform. And yes, digitization in terms of a dashboard utilization from a manufacturer or an installer, where as a developer or a customer can look into at what stage of his production, at what stage of his process, at what stage of his hardware procurement or hardware, where is it coming from. In terms of transparency, bringing across through a digitization process is what a developer point of view, what we look at. Technology, as Mr. Kanay and even Raghu pointed out, there are a lot number of technology which we aspire and also customer aspires. Yes, there has to be an affordability tag to it. I think there has been a lot number of solutions which are coming across, which as in slow and steady, we have been able to bring it across to customers, make them understand, and there is a slight cost towards it, with the customer is still aware to look into and also wanting to spend that small money in terms as what a small thing, what Mr. Raghu pointed out, whether his window is open or not. If he's able to know at a remote place sitting through is one of the best things what a customer would feel happy. Yes, it needs that affordability which needs to come into. I think as we move ahead, there is always a space to look into these segments and bring in affordability is what I think.
Thanks, Mr. Prashant. Over to Falguni, ma'am, on your question on
manufacturers. How have you used the last year? How have you been able to reach out to the customer? And what have sales been like in the last year? Mr. Raghunandan, maybe you could go first.
Yeah, definitely. So the last year, so in April, naturally, last year we had 0 sales, right? Like most people in the room. And we recovered, I think, due to a really good work done by our team and a lot of support from our value chain, both the suppliers and the customers. We recovered, and I think managed to end the year, I would say, not in a bad situation. How did we reach out to the customers? We had to, I think, quickly adapt to this digital reality. In the month of April and May, we conducted over close to 200 to 300 webinars with our architect partners, with the builders, and also trained our fabricator partners using digital media. And we were able to, I think, catch up on a lot of information and knowledge that we had not been able to reach out to people during this time. So I think that digital media was the primary mechanism. As soon as the lockdown sort of ended, I think people started going out. people then started asking for more face-to-face meetings, but the conversation turned a lot more to the design side of things. So people opened up older designs from the cupboard, started working on pending projects, and that, I think, gave us a chance to participate more at the early stage of the project. So I think the pandemic created an opportunity. I think got customers used to doing design meetings on WebEx, closure meetings on WebEx, and that, I think, really hopefully leads into a new way of working, not just a pandemic remnant. That's sort of, I think, how we reached out, established a bond, even meeting new customers. We had this challenge that we thought maybe new customers would want to meet us physically. Known customers are okay with the digital media, but even new customers, I think they understood that, look, this is a better way of working. And we all learned how to connect digitally. I'm meeting all of you for the first time. And it is a chance. As soon as I meet you, I have to think, how do I connect with you digitally? How do I stay in touch? How do I take this relationship forward? I think it made us better salespeople. I would say better human beings in that sense.
I think what you've said is so true for almost all of us who use this time to first ruminate, then plan, then reach out, then connect, and find a lot of alternative mediums to do the same business that we did earlier. The whole thing is that the pandemic set the stage for a mindset change, that your customer didn't always expect you to come and sit in front of him in order to be able to pitch to him. The pandemic made people, like you said, more accepting of different forms of interactions. Over to you, Mr. Schmidt.
As far as we as a company, from our revenue generation, I would say,
yes,
are. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Sure. We as a company, in our revenue generation, we are around 80% really in B2C, and I would say 20% in B2B, where B2C people really want to touch it, they want to feel it, they want to see the difference, and they are in the advantage for us as of now even is that we are really working pan-India. And even like today, it is again happening. What was happening 1 year back, some areas are opening early, and we could focus on those areas where customer had called our team members. Some area opened quite late where we had to support those areas. But overall, I would say from September, October, it went quite well. But being in terms of B2C, it was still the touch point. You can make certain amounts introduction as well. Of course, we have conducted also so many webinars with architects, with our own team members, upgrading them, motivating them, explaining all the new innovations coming in. But for a consumer who may see, okay, this is brand number 1 and brand number 2 or brand number Z, what is actually really your value proposition? In B2C, people have actually really waited. And then my team also, while following all the safety measures of sanitation, everything, but we had to step out. Of course, yes, on sites where it was a new construction, this had also continued or quite started early. But for the replacement, where people are actually looking for a retrofit, which is definitely the market of the future, but there we had really to wait because till the consumer had the confidence, now it's the right time to let someone in. We know during the first couple of months, even maids and other people was not even allowed to enter. The gated communities were locked. And there we had to wait till the time it had opened up. There it is clear. We can make an early connection, this is right. But in B2C, as of now, I want to repeat it again, the personal touch points that someone is really seeing it, you can still send it to the house, but in the explanation, online digital is something. But in B2B, it works with the institutional, with the commercial buildings, with architects. This is all perfect fine. But with the actual buyer, because when I buy a shirt, I can buy a shirt in any of the online providers. But since our window, our product is still a very heavy investment. And before someone is really spending lakhs, I don't want to say crores, but whoever spends lakhs, it's a lot of money what he had saved hardly. He had to work hard for it. So that's why everyone is really wanting to see it in detail so that he can explore it to give the best choice. And this, I would say, is maybe a drawback for our industry because the value is quite high. So that's why many touch points, many meetings are actually really needed.
Over to you, Sarah.
The last question I'd like all of you to touch upon just in one line. Where do you see the segment heading? How do you see it developing in the near and long term? Each of you, if you could just take 30 seconds on it. Mr. Venkatesh?
Can you repeat the question again?
Where do you see the segment heading in the near and long term?
This segment, as I foresee, is getting professional towards each segment of working. For example, the design is becoming professional, the systems are being, turned into professional. Every manufacturer is interested to complete the production process in a professional manner. It is very simple, like the position of fixing of the handle should be standard in all the windows. The quality improvements are happening at the production level, at the manufacturer's level. 20 years back, the windows used to be termed in a very common language called Bombay sliding. Today, there is no language like that. So professionalism is growing in every sector, every step of this industry. And there is no doubt that the future of fenestration is going to be brighter. It is just a short gap of pandemic being deducted out of it.
Thanks, Mr. Venkatesh. Mr. Gandhi?
Is a strong bonding between the three main, I would call it the triangle, is the customer, the architect, and the or the consultant and the manufacturer. I think that's very important, and I think what we've seen, as rightly mentioned by my colleagues also, that the pandemic has and the technology has started this whole initiation of a lot of interaction happening not across even the country but globally. So we are actually started talking to each other. We know what are the issues, and we know what we need to, and we can all work together to find out the right solution, or whether we would want to be with standardization to a certain extent, as well as have more innovation done with a lot of technology coming into it, like as I said, a lot of interactive media which can be done with respect to glazing and windows, which is very important as well.
Right. Mr. Raghunandan?
I think the couple of trends that I see is, one is customers are expecting more choice. I think many people have traveled around the world, and I basically they want more options, whether it be from a design perspective or a performance perspective. They just want more, right? More choice. The second, I think the entire supply chain is maturing, as the colleagues on the panel said. Whether it be raw material suppliers, system suppliers, fabricators, installers, everybody is, I think, making progress, and in that sense professionalizing themselves. I think that is a second trend. And I think the third trend is, I think people are realizing that there is a lot of, let's say, utility or value lost in doors and windows just sitting there and doing nothing, which comes back to that whole topic of digitization. And how can I get more out of this investment that I've made, which is not a small investment? And I think this will shape that industry going forward. And our role at Shuko, the way we see it, is how can we accelerate performance, accelerate standardization, accelerate innovation, accelerate the skill level development, so that the pie becomes bigger for everybody, and architects have choices, and we have a bigger market to play in.
Thanks, Mr. Schmidt.
The overall important, as per my opinion, during the pandemic, we learned that time was there and the importance to time. When, for example, when I speak with my German colleagues, when I'm there in our German plants, when we see the number of meetings, what we are doing, they are extreme prescribed, short, quick, 2 rounds of negotiation done. Tight timelines to be followed during execution. How much time I have actually to be in and to be immediately out. Penalties both ways. Site not ready, penalty to the buyer. I'm not ready, penalty to me. This is something where, of course, funds and money is always a problem. It will become more tight. That's why we know the time we have to play has to become shortenized. And this is something where I really see a big opportunity for our future, because the main key player have to invest wisely, have to invest in stock, in technology, and turnaround in making the things. Can you make the project in 1 month's time? Perfect, done. Previously, it would take 6 months, 8 months, and on the end, there was much more of a loss. Also, this kind of change, which has already started a couple of years back, I would say, is progressing in the right direction. Of course, new products are coming in. This is also a thing which is going to happen for the future. My take home of today, uPVC will be 50%. Personally, I doubt, okay? Because even for us in our B2C, where a couple of years back, I was making like 80-90% uPVC. Now my aluminium production has increased to almost 1/3 of my overall turnaround here in India only. Therefore, but I would say it's the segment. uPVC will fit into maybe into mass housing, and we have to see in our association how to upgrade uPVC now again where it belongs to the top. So at the same time, aluminium belongs to the top. There we have two things on top where just everyone has to push each other with the benefit to the consumer. I think the industry is so exciting, so revolving, so quick, and the benefit is definitely coming to consumer. Time will play a thing, innovation will play a thing, and the benefit is coming to the consumer. This is my hope, or this is my projection for the future.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Thank you all for your time. We've come to the end of this discussion, and we will send you the link of the video once it's uploaded on YouTube, and watch out for the May edition where it will feature as the design build cover story. Thank you so much, everyone. Mr. Venkatesh, Mr. Gandhi, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Raghunandan. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.
Actually, it's been just wonderful seeing so many faces in this pandemic when we're in an almost lockdown. It's just good to see everybody and to connect. It's been a pleasure. I will allow Serafina to reach out to you. In fact, I don't have to allow her. Serafina will reach out to you if there has been any aspects in this that she feels she needs to the story. Sure. She'll reach out to you. Please do, lend your insights once again. And she will be in touch for the story, which will be online, which will be in print, and a link of the video will be sent to you shortly, early coming week. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah, thank you, Falguni. Thank you, Serafina.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.